let's give Mr. Zafar Masud a big hand for being here and being a Foremanite.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You really make us proud. You really make us proud. And I tell you, we have had so many great Formanites, the president, chairman, Senate, governors, federal ministers, all the great people FC has. This is the best liberal art college we have seen anywhere. And look at the kind of talent we have produced over here. FC has produced more talent than any other institution in Pakistan. And just like Mr. Zafar Masud said today, the folks those who are here, some those who have left, this is the future. They will be here one day. We will produce more good people, more talent in this university than any other university over here. And we are so proud of you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
And being here. And Dr. Edelton, we have so many records, the president, the governors, but we have broken 2 records today, which I found out. One, we have 2 survivors. Tell me which institution has 2 survivors today?
That is true.
So another record broken over here.
Well said.
Similarly, if I have to read a book, and I'm not a big book reader, and I know you guys have to read a lot of books. If there's a book I want to read his book. He's a more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to see so many people here. Of course, a special welcome to Zafar. Very, very appreciative that you've come and talked. I think that the line there, a survivor's tale of hope, resilience, and renewal, really those are 3 things that I think are so important. People have heard me say that I'll find hope wherever I can find it. I think that resilience is one of life's great qualities because I don't know what the cricket equivalent is, but in baseball, a curveball, everybody in life is going to get a curveball, something unexpected, maybe something terrible. But to be able to have that resilience, and then the renewal part as well is so important. I will say I'm very appreciative about being here.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me just apologize at the outset. Apologies on 2 counts. One, that my visit to FC College has been due for a while. I was due to visit a while back, but one reason or the other it's been delayed on. And secondly, because this book read, by the way, was supposed to happen during the summer vacations, and as Badia said, on my request, it was said today, well, earlier actually, because I wanted to talk to you all, and this naughty lot I want to talk more about because they're more like me. That side is much more disciplined. This side is naughty like I was in FC College, so I can relate to this side more. And that's why I adjusted my sofa too, by the way, huh? So I'll be watching you guys, and I'll be relating with you. I have, since, and this is a very typical trait of all youngsters these days. You have very narrow sort of retention span, attention period. And given that fact, I think I'm going to change a bit about my talk today. Try and keep it as precise as possible. Read less and less from the book and leave it up to you to ask questions. And I would encourage this side to ask as many questions as possible. I'm here. I have all the time in the world. Now that I'm here, I have all the time in the world, and I'll be happy to respond to you on everything and anything that's playing up on your mind. Dr. Edelton, thank you very much for understanding my constraints and appreciating, the preferences. This whole back and forth, I'm very embarrassed about. Badia, Haroon, and the team, they had to do these arrangements multiple times than they were supposed to do. So my apologies for that, but thank you very much for finally organizing and making this day happen. Acknowledgements in the order about the book. I would like to acknowledge Amna Hassan, who is the editor and the researcher of this book. When you read this book, and hopefully you will read this book, then you'll be, this side will read more of this book than that side, by the way. This is, I'm very clear about. ये किताबें शिताबें पढ़ने वाले नहीं है, शरारती लौट है. ये वाली लौट जो है ना, this is much more, studious in that sense. Shata Rupa, who is the international editors, publishers editor. Amina Sayyed, who is my publisher locally, and Dibakar Ghosh, who is the international publisher. The book is being translated as we speak by none other than the legendary Dr. Amjad Saqib in Urdu. It's been translated into Spanish, and I've been offered to translate into Mandarin as well. But I'm holding it back because it's been offered to me by a couple of my customers, Chinese customers, and I don't want to take favors from my customers. So that's a very typical middle class mindset mentality. So apologies for that. I know many of you can relate to it. That's why I purposely said it. I'm also working on getting the sketch notebook done, whereby each chapter will be presented to the kids in an illustration form, less verbose, more visuals, and the book will condense from 210 pages to down to around 30 pages. This is a completely new idea, and I'm most excited about it. All of this shall be out in the next 6 to 9 months. This is my 35th book read, by the way. Somebody jokingly said the other day, it's like a world record of the sorts. So many book launches never happened, but I'm very thankful to the God for giving me this opportunity. And this is all organic, by the way. Although I must admit that it might have got something to do with my position as well. But frankly, most of it is organic, I must say. And I'm booked until January. And only after January, in fact, I was just talking to Suhail Saab and I was telling him that, any further interviews would only be possible after January. This talk, by the way, although it's the 35th one, but it's a very special talk for me. Special talk because it's my alma mater. Special talk because I'm talking to you all. I'm talking to the students. I'm talking to the people who this book is written for. The most bright, formidable, and curious minds. Before coming to the FC, and again this side will like this more, I was a very marginal student, by the way. And I got into FC college. At that time, I don't think that exists anymore, because even at our time, they had done away with that. There used to be quotas for admission. So music quota, drama quota, and sports quota. So I got into sports quota in FC college, by the way. And then on table tennis, I got in on sports quota. But this place then in many ways changed my life. This place helped me not only nurturing, my sports skills, and I was just sharing it with Bob that FC college that year was, after a very long time, won the intercollegiate table tennis tournament from government college. And it was a different place at that time altogether, by the way. It's a completely different environment now. And this place, even then, encouraged me for critical thinking, and that is something which is coming handy with me even today and will remain a major contributor in my life. Just great things about FC College I'm hearing. And, my heart swells with pride when people talk wonderful things about my alma mater. On that one, I'm looking at your motto. This is, as I said, I tweaked my talk a bit because I wanted your more involvement and attention. So I have included more poetry in this than it was initially anticipated. So Looking at your motto, I thought it's an appropriate share that I should share with you. जॉन इलियस साहब का शेर है, ये मुझे पता है आप सबके जॉन इलियस साहब बड़े फेवरेट हैं, तो आई थॉट इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट to bring John Elisha into discussion as well. Perhaps that will help me in keeping your attention intact. है मोहब्बत हयात की लज्जत, है मोहब्बत हयात की लज्जत, वरना कुछ लज्जतें हयात नहीं. With due apologies to our foreign friends who don't understand Urdu, but if I translate this into English, trust me, it will lose the steam. क्या इजाजत है एक बात कहूं, क्या इजाजत है एक बात कहूं, वो मगर खैर आखिर कोई बात नहीं. So in terms of today's talk, I'll try and keep my monologue as brief as possible. I'll keep it around 10 to 20, 25 minutes. So you really have to be attentive for that 20, 25 minutes, and then I will encourage more question and answers because that's great learning for me, really. I'll talk about my background, my personal background, the background of the book, and the key learnings from the book, and then we'll move to the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in Lahore, in squarely a middle-class family, but a family with very strong value system. And I have talked about it in the book, but I have curtailed my reading. I want your attention more than, boring you with the read as such. I had a magical childhood. I grew up in Lahore, in a sprawling neighborhood of Gulbarg. I grew up in a middle-class household with a strict sense of discipline. I took the bus to Cathedral School and cycled to Foreman Christian College. Like most children, I struggled with my allowance, but my mother insisted on instilling the value of sharing what we had, and I recognized that I grew up with a degree of privilege. My father, by the way, had more direct ways of dealing with me. When you read the book, you'll figure out it's in the chapter of rituals. But I'll share with you, it's a funny story, so you will like it. I'm not reading it from the book because my reading could bore you, but I'll just share that story with you. When you were a child, you get very excited about certain adventurous things. We had a house which had, air conditioned in all the rooms, but we used to share one room only because the electricity bill was not affordable at all. One of my friends told me that they have the similar setup, but they sleep in their own rooms and they use their own air conditioners. And I got really excited. How are they pulling it off? And I asked him, how did you do it? He said he'd made a deal with the lineman of now Lesco, then Wabda, whereby he's tempered the meter a bit, and it only charges them for one air conditioning to be used, while the entire house uses the 7 air conditioners. I got really very envious and excited about the whole thing, and went straight to my father and told him, Father, I have a solution. We can all sleep in our own rooms with the air conditions on. He said, okay, very good. Tell me the story. Tell me how is it possible? I narrated him the story, and with a smirk on his face, Azhar is sitting here, he knows my father well. Shaukat Bhai knows my father well. They can, everybody knows them, but you know them intimately. So you would exactly know how he would have reacted. He turned around and told me with a smirk on his face, he told me, I have a better idea actually. I said, tell me if you have a better idea, then please let's share it with me. He said, why don't you go through the hassle of making an arrangement with the lineman? Just go, let's go and buy a gun and rob a bank. And that's about it. Why to go through the hassle of striking deals underhand? And this was such a great learning for me. These are different forms and shapes of stealing things, which we tend to ignore. And this is the kind of, value system that I grew up. My family has, I come from a family of poets, authors, philosophers, actors, and that's where some degree of appreciation and motivation for contribution towards art and culture comes in me too. Um, and that perhaps you know encouraged me to write a book in this day and age where the reading habits have been evaporated, and the attention span has kind of narrowed down. Why a book and why this book? Well, I think books have longer shelf life, and therefore I think it's my permanent contribution in this transitory world. Books give you, the opportunity to put your thoughts in a structured way. It doesn't have the constraint of space or time, which generally talks have, and it's something which is right there in your face. If it's lying in the shelf, you tend to can't ignore it and perhaps go towards it. It's like me leaving behind the creativity piece of that I have in me. Um, there is, as I said, I come from a family of poets and authors, and perhaps that writing of the book was in my DNA, and hence this book, because between me and my cousins, my parents' generation, my grandfather's generation, and their parents' generation, we have almost 50 books all put together. And the idea was to encourage you all towards reading. If you look at the name of the book, it's a bit of a misnomer because the discussion about the accident per se is very limited. Doctor, you've read it, so you would appreciate it. But it's more about the learnings from that crash. I believe, I owe these learnings to the humanity. How many people who've seen the death so closely and could come back and tell you the tale? Perhaps very few. And people who've come back perhaps do not have the DNA of writing or talking about it either. I consider myself very fortunate that I could write and talk about it, because this is something which I think I owe to the humanity. And that reminds me of one of my favorite poets, Munir Niazi Saab's poetry in Punjabi. Again, people who don't understand Punjabi, apologies to them. English, I've already apologized earlier. But again, it will lose the steam altogether if I try and translate it into English. Jo hoya, ote hona hi si. Jo hoya, ote hona hi si. ਤੇ ਹੋਣੀਆਂ ਰੋਕੇ ਰੁਕਦੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਦ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਫਿਰ ਐਵੇਂ ਹੀ ਮੁੱਕਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਕੁਝ ਉਂਝ ਵੀ ਰਾਵਾਂ ਔਖੀਆਂ ਸਨ, ਕੁਝ ਗੱਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਮ ਦਾ ਤੋਕ ਵੀ ਸੀ। ਕੁਝ ਉਂਝ ਵੀ ਰਾਵਾਂ ਔਖੀਆਂ ਸਨ, ਕੁਝ ਗੱਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਮ ਦਾ ਤੋਕ ਵੀ ਸੀ। ਕੁਝ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਾਲਿਮ ਸਨ, ਕੁਝ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਰਨ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੌਕ ਵੀ ਸੀ। So, basically these are some of the learnings of my earlier life before the crash. My teacher, Arif Jamil Saab is here. He will bear me on this. Some are the reinforcement of my earlier learnings, and some are new musings. But Doc, as you said, the gist of those 10 learnings are actually in survivor's guilt and no regret syndrome. If any questions come through on this, I'll elaborate on it. But really the gist is in the survivor's guilt and no regret syndrome, and how to channelize these experiences in the right direction rather than, treating them as an impediment. Ladies and gentlemen, in the context of the liberal arts nature of FC College, I must like to emphasize that literature and economy and business are not disparate disciplines. They are interlinked. They are bosom buddies, actually. Languages and literature has the appreciation for your culture and for your reality, as some of you might have, have come across him because he was a teacher here. Dr. Nomanullah said, the complexities of the poetry and the uncertainties of the history are mind-blowing. And they lead you toward critical thinking, which is the key thing which makes you different from the others. Critical thinking is everything to my mind. And that critical thinking would only come through if you are reading history, literature, languages, and that is offered in a liberal arts university like FCCU. I have argued about this point extensively in my book under communications chapter. So when you read it, you will figure out what my argument is. I have planned 2 more books after this in the next 3 to 5 years. The second one after this, which is being worked on, is financial inclusion, prosperity, and peace. And the third one is literature and economy. So some point in time, hopefully you will come across that book as well. Some of you, by the way, would argue, as I used to argue, why do I have to study literature and history and economy? Because I just do not like it. It doesn't resonate with me. And also I used to find, at least in my mind, a very cogent argument that how will it help me in my commercial world? Let me tell you how it will really help you in your commercial world. When you have the understanding of your own culture and history and art, your perspective about things changes substantially. And irrespective of what discipline and faculty you are pursuing, you will make the difference from the others when you look at things differently and your creativity changes. The world is all about creativity now. Creativity and critical thinking are the 2 sides of the same coin. So it's everything to my mind, and you will only come up the curve and compete and do better in the commercial world from the others if you have understanding of your culture and society and language better than the others. So open your minds, open your horizons, open your faculties, and encourage creativity and critical thinking in your heads. Inhibitions are in your minds only. They are in your head. They are inside you. Extinguish them and move on. Be ready to take bold decisions. Build the appetite to take risks. It's all about your willpower and sincerity, the two chapters in my book. With yourself and the people around you. Sincerity with yourself and the people around you. Do not blame for any follies that you have on anybody else. Accept that. And then take it head on and address it. That's how you make the ecosystem around you, which gives you strength and determines your appetite to confront perils and take risks, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 favorite music bands, international bands. Both happen to be Irish bands, actually. One is the Coors, and initially the book name was actually Borrowed Heaven, which is the Coors song. And the other one is U2, which is again an Irish group. Their song, which I think is a great learning, called Get Out of Your Own Way. Please do listen to that song very carefully. But I'll read something from that song. Get out of your own way. I could sing it to you all night, all night. If I could make it all right, all right. I can give my sharings, learnings with you. I can do some things on your behalf as well. But nothing stops you except what's inside. I can help you, but it's your fight, fight back. Take it lying down, you got to bite back. The face of liberty starting to crack like freedom. The slaves are looking for someone to lead them. The masters looking for someone to lead them. You needed to be that masters. You have to be the masters. The promised land is there for those who need it most. This is the promised land where you are. You will lead them. You have to lead them. And Lincoln's ghost said, get out of your own way. You are standing in your own way. Get out of your own way. And the sky is limit for you. Other than the critical thinking and obviously creativity, technology is another thing that should not lose the eye on the ball as far as that is concerned. Irrespective of which discipline or field you are pursuing, these are the two constant factors which cut across all those disciplines and make you better and different from those. That is critical thinking, creativity, and the other one is technology. In this context, I would encourage you all to please read two books. One is Sovereign Individual by Davidson and Regmus, and the other one is Homo Deus, Yuval Noah Harari's. Now, in these books, they actually argue how the technology is becoming so important that you actually end up getting godlike powers. You will actually be, rather than being a citizen, you will be a partner to the sovereigns as well. Because you will be able to control through the cyber space the technology of the sovereign. And now, the other control that sovereign has is the printing of the currency. With crypto coming through, that control is also going away. With tinkering that we are doing, based on my learnings, because people who escaped me from there, when the crash happened, they did not know who they were saving. And if I could in any way give them any benefit or whatsoever, but they did it in their goodness and the positivity. So goodness is there by default in people. If we assume negativity about any action of people, then we'll look at things in a negative way, and then we will create a society which is an evil-minded society, which will be an ill-action society. So please, in your minds, try and give people leeway and opportunity to explain to you rather than assuming things about them without knowing them and giving the opportunity to explain to you. And if we choose that path, then we'll live in a world which is a world of goodness. And this is what really it is all about. This is what I expect from you all. The students here, this is what I expect from you. ज़माना अब भी नहीं जिसके सोच से फारिग. ज़माना अब भी नहीं जिसके सोच से फारिग. there are many ills in the society. There are many complications in the society. There are many struggling people in the society. मैं जानता हूं वो आतिश तेरे वजूद में है. I know that you have the ability to change this world and change this society. Just develop goodness in you, and sky is the limit, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody here. Most welcome, Zafar. It's a pleasure having you here. And the book we read, and now it's actually reiterated by Dr. Fatima. We have learned a lot. And it's a pleasure absolutely to moderate this session today and to learn something from the story of resilience and gratitude indeed. Um, if you allow, I would like to have some questions.
Sure.
We have discussed so many things already. I would like to know, this is such a powerful title of your book. So what actually is for you? Why did you choose this particular thing?
Okay, this is a very interesting question, and there is a small, a bit hilarious story about it as well. So, as I fleetingly mentioned during my remarks that the initial name of the book was Borrowed Heaven, and when it went to the publisher came back to me and said, "Look, my friend, this ain't gonna sell on this name. So I have to find a name which will create some kind of excitement in people, and they end up, picking up the book. So I can't sell the book at with the name like Borrowed Heaven. So, or the other option was Least Breath. So I will rather, change the name to Seat 1C, which is, by the way, is a misnomer, as I said earlier, because the book per se, and Dr. Fatma will bear me on this, it doesn't talk about much on the story of the crash. It actually talks about the learnings from the crash. That's how I ended up with this name. But interestingly enough, that actually worked well because people did pick up the book thinking that there will be some mirch masala in there, but they were disappointed and they ended up learning something. I haven't come across anybody who has picked up the book but haven't read it cover to cover, which I consider a big success. By the way, this book has been sold in 3,000 copies, which is a big number for an English book, which is an expensive one. Now we have a cheaper version, which is paperback, but this was an expensive one. But even then, 3,000 books have been sold.
Yeah, that's a pleasant surprise, by the way, because normally the book reading is declining in our
Yes.
society.
Yeah.
People are more comfortable with electronic things. My second question, which I'm sure my audience would also like to know, that any vivid moment or anecdote which you'd like to share with us from that tragic moment.
Okay,
day.
so essentially, I call it a 30-second story, which Dr. Edelton also kind of alluded to. So those 30 seconds are mythical 30 seconds. It could be in anybody's life. It could be, a year or 1 month or 2 months, or could be 3 minutes or 10 minutes. In my case, I call it 30 seconds. This is the time when you are alive and you're heading towards the death, and you know that you are heading a brick wall. And you would know that you can't survive. Now, what is the thinking on those 30 seconds? The thinking on those 30 seconds, as far as I was concerned, and I think, Doc, you might have experienced the same thing as well, that my life came in front of my eyes, my childhood in Lahore, to now coming back to Lahore as the president of the Bank of Punjab. And at that time, I was only concerned, as you said, about my loved one, which was my mother. What will happen to her? And I was a very satisfied man. There were no regrets. Now, I have the habit of talking to myself, which I believe I talk to my God, because I believe the God is here. And I told myself, well, God, this is happening, and I never been scared of death. So I said, God, it's happening, it's inevitable, and I am looking forward to seeing you. So there was a voice which came from inside which said that, no, it'll be all right. I said, what are you talking about? It's happening, it's inevitable, it's right in front of my eyes. He said, no, it is crashing, but you will survive. Now that was a great experience, but one big learning out of this whole thing is that we all talk about life after death. We have our faith in it, whether any religion we belong to. We have there are some myths around life after death as well. But have we ever talked about life before death? Those 30 seconds are those life before death, when I was standing in my own court, in my own witness box, answerable to myself of how I led my life. Look, those 30 seconds have to come in everybody's life. It will come again in my life, by the way. I was just merely lucky that I came back and telling you the tale about it, but that opportunity may not be there again. And I'm pretty sure it won't be there again. So we need to prepare ourselves for life before death more than we worry about life after death, because at that time, you will be standing in your own court, in your own witness box, and answerable to your own self for how you led your life. And at that time, if you have had any regrets, then trust me, you will have no opportunity to remove that remorse and to address that remorse. So make sure that every step you take now, in those 30 seconds, you shall not have any regrets whatsoever. And the second important piece is the fact that, look, we need to be very clear on this. Life after death, we are answerable to somebody who is much beyond us. Our problem is that we humanize God, as Raza Aslan says. We consider God as an inflated version of ourselves somehow, in different traits. But the fact of the matter is that we can't even comprehend and imagine of how generous that being could be. As we call it in Islam, and this is same, by the way, in every religion, in Christianity, even in Confucius, by the way, it is Ghafurur Rahim. So he will merciful. He will let go of you, your trivial mistakes. But when you are standing in your own court, will you be generous enough? Will you be open-hearted enough to let go of your own mistakes and the mistakes of the others? Please become that human being who is let go of other people's smaller and trivial issues in life. Really. And then in those 30 seconds, you will be able to let go of yourself. My belief is that if you pass that test of 30 seconds, life before death, then Ghafurur Rahim will definitely let you in the heaven that we are all striving for.
Another question which is related to it, I'd like to know that what actually, when you had this experience, what actually helped you heal? It was your spirituality, your instinct, some prior training, anything. What actually keep you motivated?
Loved ones, really. Your ecosystem that I talked to you all about, keep your loved ones closer to you. That is what is important. Nothing more, nothing less. Just cherish that. No money, no position. It will be your loved ones who will be the biggest healer. And that's about it, really. That's your strength, that's your ecosystem.
Could you see some transformation in your life after this incident, particularly when you, how do you define success now? How do you define public responsibility or accountability and all that sort of thing?
As I said in my remarks as well, it's all about how you touch people, positively touch people. That's your only legacy. how people will remember you when you're gone. That is what is important. Your money will not come handy, your position will not come handy. It is your relationship with people which will be remembered and cherished after you're gone. Really, that's all. That's all it's all about.
So does it mean how it really transformed your leadership position? Because that's very, financial kind of thing. And then what really transformation you feel yourself after that incident?
Yeah, so I have a whole theory called management by empathy. And, I believe that you need to be very empathetic with people. You need to understand where other people are coming from, appreciate their background, their constraints, their strengths, and then work around, either help them nurture their strengths to deliver for you, or whatever the weaknesses they have, work with them to improve their weaknesses. And this is what it's all about. It's all about empathy, management by empathy, really.
I just had this question that you're manifesting very positive traits, like you are into literature now and you are talking about empathy. But experiences like these, they change our nature, like drastically. We would like to have a look at Zafar Masud before this event or before this, sort of catastrophe. So, how much has this impacted your nature?
Empathy, you talked about change of nature after the crash. So it so happened that Arif Bhai is here, who is my teacher. He probably confirm that I was as good or as bad as I was before the crash as well. So nothing much has changed. My colleague is sitting here as well, Kamran. He probably say the same thing also. I haven't changed much, although two things have happened. One is the sense of urgency, that whatever needs to be done has to be done now without any delay. Because 1 minute before my crash, I didn't know what was written in my fate, that I will leave this world probably. So if anything needed to be done, do it now before it's too late. Especially to those, ये इस साइड के लिए है, especially to those कि अगर किसी को I love you कहना है तो अभी कह दो यार, वेट मत करना, समझ आई? इंतजार मत करना, वो फिर निकल जाता है, वो दूसरा उसका ही तुम्हारा जो दूसरा उसका दोस्त होगा ना, वो आके कह देगा I love you, फिर तुम लोग क्या करोगे? कह देना. So this is very important. Without any delay, do whatever you need to do and don't wait for it. Second, जो urgency बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई. And secondly, fearless ज़रा ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा हो गई. I was very fearless before also, but now I have become a bit too more fearless, which is in a way is a liability too, because you carry some responsibility towards other people also who dependent on you. So if you are too fearless, you will be able to sustain that fearlessness, but the others may get damaged on the way, so it's not a good idea.
My question is that, sir, as you said that everything is about the good relationship between the people. So my question is that being a student of first or second semester here in university, how to maintain a diplomatic nature with the students, with my surrounding, with my faculty, how to maintain our socializing. It is also required for our upcoming journeys, and that at some extent also affect our educational purposes or educational. For example, if we have to socialize, if we have to meet someone or friend, and that affect our studies, means that how to keep a balance. It is very necessary. I feel that being diplomatic from student life.
There is a very simple answer to this. Just be truthful, as sincerity I talked about. Truthful to yourself and to the others. Trust me, people will love you if you are truthful to them. Don't have to be diplomatic. They may not appreciate it right away when you say something to them which they don't want to hear, but later on they'll realize and they respect you for it. So just be sincere to yourself, truthful to yourself and to the others. Don't need to be diplomatic about things at all. Don't worry about that. कोई downside नहीं होती. ये हमारे दिमाग में ज़्यादा होता है diplomatic होना. लोगों को भी पता होता है आप कितने को डिप्लोमेटिक है. वी आर एक्चुअली टेस्टिंग अदर पीपल्स इंटेलिजेंस. कोई पॉइंट नहीं है यार. लेट्स बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट अबाउट दिस. एंड पीपल हु हैव इंटरैक्टेड विद मी know that I am a bit too blunt in that sense, because I believe that rather than giving people a wrong perception and wrong ideas about things, it's better to be honest with them upfront and deal with them that way only.
My question is, whenever we go through an experience, especially if it's as traumatic as the one you went through, we have an inherent need to express it, to say it, to be heard, to be understood. So we also have this inability to all express what we want to convey what we want to. So could you talk about the writing process and how it was like for you to revisit those experiences and to form a coherent narrative out of that?
Zarak, it was very interesting and enlightening experience for me. For an amateur writer, there is always a constraint. Your writing is generally very disjointed, so you always need help from professional authors, and they'll put the whole of your ideas in a more readable manner, and it goes down really well with the others. Start from small, start from an article or an outline, and then keep on expanding it. This book started from an article I written in January 2021 on the post learnings for one of the newspapers. And then I realized that this could be expanded into a book, and then it came into a book format. ये जो अभी मैं talks कर रहा हूँ different, there are new ideas which are coming through. This 30-second story, although it's touched upon in the book, but it is not elaborated in detail here. But Urdu version will have one chapter on it. But I will probably come with the sequel of this 30-second story of life before death, because I just picked up that idea in one of the sessions like this. So that's what my learning has been about the book, the writing process. And it continues, writing and talking. Again, as I said, get out of your own way. This is in your head, that you can't write, that you can't talk. You can write and talk as well. You can do anything and everything if you just get this out of your way and just realize that you have the ability to do whatever you needed to do. Just need to work hard towards it.
It's more of a hypothetical question that I wanted to ask. As a future self, right now, you could go back in time with the knowledge of the crash, how would you respond with that knowledge?
There are few paragraphs in your book, and it actually touched me up really, very deeply. You're restoring faith on the PIA, the organization that created you. How did you restore your faith on that institution and as a human being? So I think for these young minds and hearts, these two important questions will be important. Thank you.
Let me just lump in Amna's second question and Abdul Manan's question, because the response is the same. The prior knowledge about it, so how would have things been different, right? And faith on PIA. अच्छा, एक तो पहली बात ये, there is nothing to do with PIA. It's actually the failure of the entire ecosystem. It's not just one institution, PIA, or the PAA, the airport authority. It is a collective failure of our social values, our rigidity of the rituals, which resulted in this kind of crash. And we're still not learning. We try and put the blame on PIA or CAA or something else. But the fact of the matter is the hubris in our society, which is the biggest reason for why it happened, right? So, just to answer your question very simply, Abdul Manan, interestingly enough, I was booked on an 11 o'clock flight as well. And I switched the flight at the last minute to this one. First of all, you can't with certainty figure out what's going to happen. You could have an intuition. You don't have the crystal ball to be certain about it. So it's. I know it's a hypothetical question, but frankly speaking, if you have very strong faith in you, in your God, then what are you worried about? If it's written in your fate, if this is the way God wants you to be dealt with, Irrespective of how you want to escape it, you won't be able to escape it. In my case, as I said, I was booked on 11 o'clock. I changed it to 1 o'clock. And I reached the airport at 11:30 as well, by the way. Much earlier than I was supposed to come. Zafar is sitting here. He told me to come at 12:15. And I showed up at 11:30 and he said, "Why did you come so early?" I said, I just felt like it. So it was just written in my fate. I could have taken that 11 o'clock flight. I could have been one of those 98 people. So as long as you have strong faith in spirituality, Amna, whether it's PIA or Air Blue or Serene जो बंद हो गई है अभी, it doesn't matter. If it's written in your fate, you will not survive. And I have absolutely no misconception that it was not doing of the God. It was the intervention of the God that made me survive. Nothing more, nothing less. My spiritual piece is very strong. My faith is very strong in my God, as I told you. And that is what it matters.
As a student of logic and critical thinking, I noticed that you use these terms a lot while you're giving your speech. So I wanted to know, how do you differentiate between a calculated risk and an emotional leap, especially in moments where logic and intuition both demand attention?
Calculated risk was emotional need. अच्छा, मसला ये है कि a lot depends on where you have been brought up and what are the priorities in your life. The element of calculated risk and the emotional leap that you talked about, and emotional need that you talked about, it depends on what is the priorities you have set for yourself in life. At times you know the risk, but you still emotionally feel like going towards it. It is your choice in life that you are knowingly getting into something where you know is a risky path, but emotionally it gives you satisfaction. At the end of the day, if this is satisfied, if you are happy about your action, then nothing matters. End of the day, your satisfaction. अच्छा, कैलकुलेटेड रिस्क में भी ना आप 36 रीजंस भी निकाल लेते हैं. जब आप इमोशनली उसकी तरफ, तो आप उसमें उसके मिटिगेंट्स भी निकाल लेते हैं. आपको पता होता है कि ये मिटिगेंट्स बड़े कमजोर हैं, बट आप खुद ही उसको, जैसे सेट सिंसियरिटी विद योरसेल्फ, आप फिर भी मिटिगेंट्स निकाल लेते हैं कि नहीं 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 नहीं, ये तो यूं करके इस तरह हो जाएगा, कोई मसला नहीं है, ठीक हो जाएगा. तो वाई टू से यार कि ठीक है रिस्क है, बट मेरा दिल कह रहा है मैं यही करूंगा, कर लें उसको, देखी जाएगी क्या होता है. तो वो तो जब तक आप पुश ना करें बाउंड्रीज टू सर्टेन एक्सटेंट, तब तक तो बात बनती नहीं है. एंड इट्स फाइन यार, गो विद द इमोशंस, दफा करो ये रिस्क को. इफ इमोशनली यू आर स्ट्रांग इनफ, you will be able to, and then that links into Amna's first question as well, mental health. It's all about, if you are emotionally satisfied, it is actually the emotional strength which is important than the physical health. आपका physical health की deficit भी, you can get over that if you're mentally strong. I did my mental health treatment for 4 months after the crash, and after writing the book, after this, by the way, I'm going to my psychotherapy session. क्या परेशानी है? अगर आप ठीक हैं तो उसमें आ जाएगा कि आप बिल्कुल ठीक है, रीइंफोर्स हो गया, और उसमें आ जाएगा कि आप ठीक नहीं है तो आप ठीक हो जाएंगे. और अगर उसमें ये भी डिक्लेयर हो गया कि आप ठीक नहीं हो सकते, तो आपको पोजीशन ऑफ पावर में होना ही नहीं चाहिए, बिकॉज आप लोगों का ज्यादा नुकसान करेंगे अगर आप मेंटली ठीक नहीं है. तो माइट एज वेल टेक इट हेड ऑन एंड एड्रेस इट. एंड दिस इज, आई बिलीव, another cliche, another inhibition, a norm in the society that we need to break.
My question is that we as young people are often very doubtful of the decisions we make. So this question is addressed to you both as someone who's much more experienced and someone who's had a near-death experience. So if you're very sure about the decisions you're making because you come from a position of influence as the president of the Bank of Punjab, so what was it? Was there a moment after the crash that you got more surety in the decisions you made, or did you doubt yourself more? What was it?
अच्छा देखिए, you cannot be and never be sure about your decisions. There is always an element and peril of they going sour. So never look for a surety in any decision you take. This links into the earlier question that that Manur asked, that, emotional peace. So take the decision, keeping your eyes open, balancing your emotions and your the real risk which are out there right in front of you, but you can't be sure about that decision. So take that decision with the utmost certainty that you have in mind that you are taking the right decision, whether it's emotional or otherwise. And at times, after taking this decision, you will have the opportunity to fix this as well. So never worry about taking the decisions. Always be open minded and ready to accept that the decision you took was perhaps lacking some kind of more thinking or emotional strength. Now build that emotional strength of thinking and fix it. It is all about fixing and responding to the things rather than being sure about the decision at that time.
So, sir, I wanted to ask, you mentioned about those 30 seconds, and you also mentioned that you do not actually hear that what's about to come, right? So, I want to ask that in those 30 seconds, was there, you had enough time to, when you feel like your fear actually turned into acceptance? Like the moment you feel like now it's going to end, was there time you feel like your fear is actually turned into the acceptance, the reality that you're going to die might be? So I want to ask about that particular time.
This was happening instinctively. Trust me. It was not by, I had no idea that in those 30 seconds, my life will come in front of me. What will I be thinking? It was all instinctive. And when we all come closer to the death, we all will probably experience this instinctively. You can't plan it that you will think about it that way when the life is going, when your departure time has come.
Sir, you went through something very traumatic, something that we do not go through every day, thankfully. And when you go through something, especially something that a whole group went through, a trauma that a whole group went through, there's this usually and typically the survivor develop this survival skill. Why me? This haunting feeling of why me? Why was I chosen to survive by the Almighty? And I could have been part of those 98 people. You were one of the two people who survived. So my question is that I know it's been over 5 years, but do you still live somewhere in the back of your head? Do you still live with that survival skill? And if not, has it over the years maybe developed into gratitude or maybe even a newly found purpose at your life?
On survivor's guilt, a small read from the book Zainab. This is on page 209. My legacy का जो किताब उसमें है afterword के अंदर है ये. Perhaps the guilt I felt as a survivor could have been channelized into something more productive much earlier. In fact, this guilt has been my primary motivation for creating a more equitable world. So perhaps it is time to subvert the negative association we have with survivor's guilt. And now this is the most important functional part that I need your attention on. If all of us individually see the privileges, wealth or positions we have as proof of a survival in an uneven, unjust world, then we shall all have some degree of guilt that propels us to make change. And this is exactly what has happened to me post survivor's guilt.
I mean, some people were panicking, some people were not. I mean, the situation cannot be described in words. So I believe I have seen the trailer of what you have presented as a movie in your book. So I am in a habit of drawing my fears. When I am stressed, when I am fearful. So I draw all those emotions, and whenever even though it was 10 to 15 minutes, the plane, it felt like it was stuck in the middle of nowhere. We could neither fire nor touch down on the ground. But whenever I draw this, my fear or that very stressful situation, that was very stressful, 5 to 10 minutes, I use the colors gray, black, white, and brown. So if you're asked to draw those 30 seconds, what colors will you use? And then there's another question. So in psychology, they say you either take a fight response or a flight response when it comes to fear. So I think a good majority, a lot of people, they would never fly again after such an experience. So flight, I need what made you take the flight response. Was it a conscious effort on your part, as you mentioned psychopathy and all that? So yes, that's the second question. Thank you.
Maheen said, um, what color I'll draw? Difficult to say right now, Maheen. It depends on those 30 seconds. If you have any regrets, then probably you draw black or gray. If you have no regrets, then you probably, my favorite color, orange. You draw orange perhaps, or yellow, or red. You can't say this right now. Really, you cannot. You will only figure out at that time only. Not even now. But prepare yourself to draw a brighter color in those 30 seconds. And trust me, if you end up drawing orange, then God will make sure that you will get orange. This is what my belief is.
The biggest takeaway from this talk would be the idea that be big enough to forgive others and more importantly yourself. I will take this home. My question is about how your family, your loved ones reacted to this, because I remember a day after the incident was Eid. And I feel very closely to this incident because I lost one of my friends in that plane crash as well. He was my senior in the university. He was an excellent student at MBA. So talk about your family, how did they react to the situation? And how was your Eid after that?
वो हुआ ये कि after the crash, I said, now this was God's doing. I have to do something as well. So I decided that I'll do something in the first opportunity that the God will give me that will make a statement. So first thing, when they allowed me to go outside the house, I went to the site and I met with the rescuers who rescued me there and thanked them personally. I was on the wheelchair, but I did make a point. The second thing I decided to do was that whenever the doctors will allow me to fly back, which is 4 months after the crash, I will fly on the same airline, on the same seat, going back on the same, in a way, same plane, same flight. So out of love and guilt, he was a friend also, the PIA chairman then. He used to come and see me every 15 days. So one of those 15 days, he came and saw me and I told him that, look, I've taken a decision to fly back on PIA. He literally fell from the chair. He said, what are you talking about? We were trying to build the courage to even ask you to fly back, and you're telling us that you're going to fly back on PIA. I said, yes, I want to get that fear out of my head. You can't live with these kind of fears. And that was my statement. It needed me it needed me to bring in a lot of courage and motivation, but I had to garner that courage, that motivation, and then I did it. My family, look, ईद वाली जो चीज़ें होती हैं ना शाहरुख, वो तो सारे बहाने होते हैं. मेरे लिए तो आज ही ईद है जो मैं आप लोगों से मिल रहा हूँ. तो जिस दिन सो आई गेस जिस दिन मैंने सरवाइव किया था उसी दिन गालिबन उन लोगों की ईद हो गई थी. तो इट डजेंट मैटर कि ईद के दिन क्या होता है, मगर गालिबन उनकी ईद उसी दिन हो गई थी. मगर मैं उस दिन को बहुत ईद का दिन नहीं समझता. मैं समझता हूँ कि वो काला दिन है और हम सबको 22 मई को बहुत अफसोस करना चाहिए एंड कंडेम करना चाहिए. एंड वी मस्ट रिमेंबर the follies of our society, the rigidity of our rituals, and try and address those, try and alleviate those really. This is, to my mind, is all about it.